Greetings and salutations, all you beautiful individuals. It is another epi of League Unlock. Eric and Mark here with you for another preseason ranking breakdown. This time, it's not the LTA. We're talking LCS preseason power rankings. Doesn't it just feel better, roll off the tongue to say LCS than LTA?
I think we can get it off the bat right away and say that honorary number one should be the LCS and honorary last place is going to be the LTA. Yes, we are back in business. We are going back to the LCS, the rebrands, everything else. It's over. We've returned to where we should be. And yes, it will be an uphill battle still to climb for the region as far as viewership and being competitive on the international stage. But I think there are avenues to be excited, to have your hope and enthusiasm for this upcoming season.
Yeah, and especially, I think the LCS more than any other region, the roster changes top to bottom. There's no team that's returning with the same five, which is very contrary to what we saw in the LEC and the LCK, at least at the top of the table. And that is exactly where we start heading into this one, is that tippity top, the number one squad heading into this year with the big acquisition of former MVP Quid heading over to Team Liquid. I feel like the carry threat of Quid and Lyon is best in their role potential, and were probably best in their role last year, and that alone is probably enough to have Team Liquid sitting in number one.
I think there is one small percentage of me that hangs on and is questioning how things will work out for Quid, specifically with the coaching staff situation for Team Liquid, with Spawn being, in that remote situation sometimes. That's absolutely, I think, a factor where it's an uncertainty as far as how much he's going to rely upon that in a new environment, new situation with Team Liquid. What you can more or less look to and rely upon is that, yes, the performance, the contributions, the quality of gameplay that you're going to get from him is at a higher level than what we were able to see on a more consistent basis, at least last year, from APA for this Team Liquid squad. And I think, again, how things operate, how you want to keep moving forward and keep exploring what you can as a roster, as an organization, with Jan as your big star, young talent. Putting in another player like Quid and bringing that into this team right away absolutely fills me with a lot of hope for this Team Liquid squad.
Yeah, and I think with Spawn being a remote coach, I don't think we have the full... There's still going to be obviously an in-person coach for Team Liquid. I don't think we have that full lineup settled yet, but I think Core JJ is going to basically step into that player/coach role, especially when Morgan's coming over as well from the LCK, so to kind of help the new Koreans acclimate into the roster. Core JJ is going to be that transition point. The top side of the map is definitely still a question mark, even though Team Liquid is number one. But I will say this is far and away the best roster and laners Jose Dioto has probably had in his career, so this is a mega opportunity for him.
And he certainly has been someone that has gone through a lot in his journey since being in that mega spotlight of the LCS, right? And I think last year as the LTA and the trial and how things went from him still showed more than enough signs where you can believe in this type of opportunity, this type of level up in chances for him. And as you mentioned, Morgan coming over from the LCK, I think that's another one of these somewhat question marks, but I think a lot of people are, like myself, are betting on the upside, betting on seeing that this is going to be someone that moved out of a bigger, more threatening and scary ocean like the LCK, dropped into a freshwater pond like the LCS. He could thrive here is absolutely one of the things that you could see for this Team Liquid roster. Still some hesitancy a little bit to go full overboard and say, yes, without a doubt, this team will be undoubtedly successful this year domestically and internationally, but still a lot of reasons to be excited and hopeful and to buy in on what you will hopefully get from this Team Liquid roster.
And despite them being number one, it does feel like the league as a whole is more open than ever. I feel like probably top four, maybe even five, we could be talking about winning this first split in 2026. That's how many changes there were and how small a gap it feels like there are. And I know in the two spot, some people might be flabbergasted to see a rebellion brewing with Shopify, but this is one of the squads that made some of the least changes. The whole core is coming back, just the mid lane, and I say just the mid lane, but Zynie for Palafox might be the single biggest individual upgrade that there was this offseason in the LCS.
I think just the mid lane might be the most underselling statement you could make about this type of upgrade, this type of shift for the Shopify Rebellion roster. As you said, I think this is one of the few times that you could identify certain individual players and, yes, give them that check mark, double check mark in certain situations where you're saying we want to move forward, want to keep exploring with you in that starting roster. Palafox was not that guy getting that sign off and getting the approval on almost every single weekend. So yes, making that type of change here is a big one, and adding the talent, the potential that represents in Zynie, that is going to be a massive upgrade and boom and boost for this squad. I think, again, seeing how he adapts to a new environment, new situation, of course, is going to play into how quickly we see things and see the skill set that he has shown us through the LCK Challenger scene.
Yeah, and this is a guy who's got 2 MVPs from the Challenger scene, and this is the continued theme of some of these Challenger Korean players. Instead of maybe going to a mid to bottom LCK team, they go, okay, I'll get a payday, or at least a decent pay chunk over in the LCS and maybe be on a contending squad there. That's at least where we think Shopify will be, because again, Fudge had a resurgence the second half of the split. We know Shopify beat Cloud9 in the playoffs at the end of the season, so Fudge and contracts are a boon, and B-Voy continues to be one of the most underrated players in the entire league.
It's crazy, and I think that we've had more than enough time, and it was more than justified to be questioning B-Voy stepping into that spot for Shopify at the time, but everything since then, he is one of the least guys that you'd be looking at far as a question mark on this Shopify Rebellion roster. And I like that you bring up Fudge, because I think he was certainly someone that had that bounce back here, reestablishing his value, his presence, and where he presents himself in the top lane within the LCS. If he can continue to rebound off of that, he is certainly a player that can be one of the driving engines that can be a reason why this Shopify Rebellion team can find them in the upper portion of the LCS.
Rounding out the top 3 on here is, I mean, there's pretty much every team has at least one question mark. There's several for Lyon Gaming, and we've heard Inspired say he chose the team that he thinks will be favorites, has the best opportunity to win the entire split. There's a lot to prove on this squad, and I think we're given a lot of credit just for having Inspired on this roster to be in the 3 spot. Saint is the only guy returning from last year's roster. We finally are going to get to see the debut of Zamudo. Hopefully all these visa issues are figured out. This is the guy who's been NACL Finals MVP, most improved and most valuable prospect, and a young player coming in. As much as you harp on sometimes the way Inspired goes about things, there's no question he's a great veteran presence for a young new rookie.
I don't think that there is really a young rookie that has come through the North American system and scene that has as much credibility to that hype, to that hope for what we can see from him on the main stage at the top level of competition than Zamudo has offered as a top laner. And yes, hoping all the visa issues are sorted out and don't have to worry about that type of one, because again, would be a disgrace to not have him get one of these opportunities here from how he has proven himself. And as you mentioned, not only is it going to be that opportunity to get your starting spot, you're getting a pretty good buddy to help you out in Inspired, and the skill set that he will bring to this team individually, strong enough of a presence, enough of a difference maker that you can already envision this team in contention. If you are getting continued growth from Saint, if you are getting explosive young plays from Zamudo, you're getting this roster performing the way that you want, this is a Lyon that will be in that top contention for the LCS.
And of course, the biggest other question mark to them staying in that contention role is what level of Berserker is coming, right? Because there were many issues with the DN Freaks, and Berserker was, 3rd, 4th, 5th down the line, but no question he was still not nearly at the level that he was in the LCS, and, I think he partially went back to Korea, probably to go home, to have a little bit of homesickness, but quickly coming back to the LCS makes me think he really pumped the brakes and was like, okay, this ain't it.
My thing here is it simply, is this toy broken, or do we just need replacement parts? Is it, oh, batteries have run out, put the new double A's, triple A's, whatever, back into this thing. We got lights, we got action going on for Berserker again, because he has proven himself already within the region, within the LCS, as a fact, that he has been the best ADC, arguably the best player total in the region before. Didn't see that continue, that momentum at all within the LCK. Returns back home in a very different situation than how he found himself in the LCS before. Very much so looking to rebuild himself up. And I think, again, if you're looking to bet on a bounce back player, I don't know if there's a better guy to look at than what Berserker could offer in the LCS this year.
And sticking with the theme of proving or reproving themselves, this whole Cloud9 roster, you can look at APA. Obviously, the new guy is the obvious one. Nobody was expecting him to come back to Team Liquid. Fearless draft hasn't been great for a guy who was kind of a 2-3 trick champion pool. And even the guys who have been around now a while now, I think a lot of people are asking, are Blabber and Sven still really top tier in their respective roles?
This is certainly, I think, one of the most interesting teams that we will see throughout this year, and all the questions that will eventually be answered about them, because you step in with a lot of them. Now, some of them that you can, lean more so one way to the other, where you think the answer is going to be, but still so many question marks about a team that, frankly, I don't know if we've entered into a season with as many question marks about Cloud9 than this year specifically on how you're looking at this roster. APA, of course, being that big addition, as you mentioned, and where that will factor into his rebound in performance. I think this is going to be a good thing for him, because he will come into this situation with an even bigger and more established and more legitimate chip on his shoulder to prove the doubters, prove the haters, prove Team Liquid wrong in this situation, that he is that top tier option in the mid lane. There's also going to need to be those bounce backs, as you said, from Blabber, from Sven, guys that had opportunity to push this team to a top contending level last year and just simply weren't able to find that performance, find that consistency at all.
And this is now one of the most veteran-heavy lineups in the league. I know Thanatos is still young. APA, surprisingly, this is like year 3-4 that he's gone around, which is kind of insane. Still feels like he's new on the scene, but there's a lot of young up-and-coming talent. They're going to be pushing these guys. I think Thanatos, you're going to be safe with him in the top side. But yeah, Sven and Blabber need to prove they can keep up with this youth movement. And the youth movement is no more prominent than on this new FlyQuest roster. They wanted to keep Busio, probably wanted to keep Inspired. Busio goes to EU. They keep Quad and Masu, who are under contract for at least another year. But now we're looking at the youngest lineup in the roster. Gakos getting the promotion I think we expected with Whippo leaving. 17 years old. He's the youngest guy in the entire league. And now Cryogen comes in at support at 18. Griffin in at jungle at 19 years old. And all of a sudden, we're looking at Masu as the veteran leader on this team.
Which is a wild thing to say. But you can believe in it if you are FlyQuest, right? And you are going to have quite a turnover in the fan base and attention and everything else with this young roster. I think there's a lot of reason to buy in, to be one of the ones on the ground floor, a first fan situation for this rebirth of FlyQuest, I will say. And I think a lot of that starts with Griffin in the jungle, being that young talent. Again, seen a lot of him throughout the years and his path, his journey through the LCKCL, his interactions with LS. There's a lot of reasons, if you are in that kind of camp and territory of the League of Legends community, to be very excited and hopeful about his opportunity here with FlyQuest. I think the things that I am really looking at here for the established, for the returning players, Quad and Masu, for this team. Quad, it's a put up or shut up, prove it type of year. You have to step up and be able to perform at one of the top tiers of this region at the very least in your way that you're contributing. Or, yep, you got to be looking for a replacement, either young potential, veteran, whatever situation. The mid lane needs to change. Masu, on the other hand, this is your opportunity to lead. We have talked so much about this young player's career already and what he has gone through and the growth and the experiences. Yes, he is still young himself, and yes, it would be early in a career, but the opportunity presents itself to take another big leap, to add another tool to your tool belt. And as far as Masu has shown us, I'm willing to give him that opportunity if I am FlyQuest and move forward with him as that big building block.
And listen, we love to see young talent being developed, get opportunities, and FlyQuest has kind of always been at the forefront of that, going back to even the first time they were around in the way back LCS. But this is a team that, 5 feels like a conservative spot for the ranking, but really, if these rookies hit the ground running, if Griffin and Cryogen are great communicators and can help lead in game, this could be a top 3 team, no question.
It's flat out the team that if you are just going off of looking at highlight clips type of situation, seeing the best of the best offered from these players, yeah, it's going to be the FlyQuest. I think they have the most explosive young potential on this roster, but it's potential. And how often have we talked about potential this, potential that, and at the end of the day, the result is not what you wanted it to be. So that's certainly going to be one of those avenues that you're keeping track of and keeping yourself grounded if you are looking hopefully at this FlyQuest team.
Maybe the strangest put together roster that came together relatively quickly over the last few days is the new kids on the block, Team Sentinels, replacing 100 Thieves. And this is a mix of young talent. I mean, they took 3/5 of Disguise. So you got Dark Wings in his sophomore year, Rahel and Huhi coming over as that bot lane. And then the more recent adds, Impact. Didn't know if he was going to retire, become a coach, but Grandpa Impact coming back on the top side. And then yet another member from the Bros, Hambach, coming in as the jungler. He eventually kind of lost that starting spot to Krako as the season went on. But this is a mix of Korean imports, young players, and NA domestic talent like Impact and Hui, who have been around for over a decade.
This is a strange one for me. This feels like rolling up to the, fast food restaurant at like 11 p.m. and saying, give me the mixed value menu bag. Just throw it in there.
What's left? Yeah, burger. Whatever's left. Yeah. Give me that.
The nuggets that have been hanging out in the fryer too long, couple fries sitting under the heat lamps, whatever. It's a strange one from Sentinels, and especially probably I don't think the direction they were originally planning to go through. But, again, the way the off seasons work, free agency and having to be able to plan and move on the fly, I think that's where you're seeing a result of a roster like this that's kind of pushing and pulling in a little bit of some different directions all the way through the different flavors that we see within free agency acquisitions. Sentinels going for the all across the board, Napoleon ice cream type of approach to it this year.
And I will say, Impact is never on a bottom-tier team. Golden Glue gets another great opportunity and has shown he can be a great head coach. And Dark Wings did show signs and was kind of one of these standouts on Disguised, even though they didn't have a great year. So there's some potential to be had on Sentinels. Might be more potential on the squad, actually ranked below them in Disguised. But again, it's a lot of rookie action, but both Kryra and Sajed coming in are guys who have torn up the NACL, been waiting for their opportunity, and here it is on Disguised, which I know people have talked about. They're in such a tough scenario, can only really sign one-year contracts because they basically have to reprove themselves to even be in the LCS every year.
Yeah, it's a unique situation, unique hurdles that you have to go through that, other organizations, established organizations don't have to go through and everything else. But nobody's going to be giving you an extra cookie at the finish line type of situation about these ones and how you have to push through. And it's also going to be an even tougher, more intense year for this Disguised Toast team and organization, with a lot of people removing the kitty gloves, taking off the Band-Aid type of situation and saying, okay, we know that there are various hoops and hurdles that you are having to go through, but this is the second year around. You've already been at the big dance. You got to show us that you are one of the characters that can hang around, that can do some damage, can make a storyline happen. That's where it's going to be really about it for me with this disguised toast team. Yes, as well, replacing some of these young players coming through. But for me, that's really where I think it's going to be about that heat, about that intensity from the community that is going to be different this time around if the performance isn't up to what people want.
Yeah, and this is still, I think, a fan favorite team because Toast is associated with it, and there's some likable guys on it. So we're going to be rooting for these rookies, and then you have Call Me coming from the mid lane to start for them. This is a guy who's been in the challenger scene on Nongshim, we've seen, and then he went to the ERLs and lost to eventually Carmine Court Blue at the EMA Summer Finals. So he's been all around, and it's just fitting the theme that every single team in the LCS has at least one Korean import, and most of them have more than one.
Oh, yeah, and I think it seems to be kind of either this dice roll of, well, is there cheap and promising domestic talent? And if there isn't, well, I'm going to try and take my gamble on someone that isn't wanting to run through the buzzsaw of Faker, Chovy, and the LCK gauntlet that is there and take their chance at getting a world's opportunity in the LCS, in the LEC, or something else like that. And I think that's where Call Me would fit into that type of category, and I think he's certainly someone that is a reason to be excited, does present potential and hype, not to the same level that we were talking about Ziny for Shopify Rebellion, but this is one of those type of things where that all goes out the window once the games actually start being played, and what you see is the actual product and proof in the pudding that you're getting. I'm going to give Call Me and Disguised Toast that opportunity, of course.
We're not giving Dignitas an opportunity to not be the bottom team on this list. Even though we're still waiting for some of this roster to be filled out, I don't have a ton of confidence, especially seeing this support signing. Ignar's coming back. He didn't play at all last year. It seems crazy that this is who they want to go when there's still so much young talent in the NACL.
After what I just talked about, where it very much seems to be a lot of the decisions are either, okay, young, promising domestic talent, or let's go with the international pool. Ignar is not answering on either of those fronts, really, at this point in time. So very much so not approval of that type of choice for the roster. And yes, frankly, you could fill it out with saying, nope, Trickaroo, Peanut isn't retiring. He's coming on the. You could bring in whoever you want at that point. I'm not buying it for what we are going to see from this Dignitas team. 07 to Dignitas, you are taking the very bottom of the LCS rebrand.
Unfortunately, a place they are oh so familiar with, but that is it today for League Unlock. Eric and Mark here with you.